Hello, this is Sean from the Dark Knights at the Weird Table. Coming to you with a special podcast today, solo episode. Subject of the episode today is game theories. Some are a little creepy, some are a little cool, some are just nice to think about, and kind of get your mind wondering. To start off, we got about roughly 6 game theories. This is going to be start of a series that we're going to start doing, mostly involving myself and Damien, and maybe Brian or Billy if they choose to do so as well. So, to get it started off, we've got Mario as the first one. The theory is Mario is the only thing keeping Luigi from destroying the world. Now, keep in mind, these are fan-based. I did not come up with them. None of us at the Weird Table came up with these. These are solely created by fans of the game themselves. These come from several different websites. If I can remember to, I'm going to put them in the description below, and that way you can look them up for yourself. Some of them are pretty interesting. There are a couple close calls that almost made the list, but didn't catch my interest. And some were just a little too disgusting to really want to put on YouTube. So, to get it started off, as I said, Mario is the only thing keeping Luigi from destroying the world. Over the years, Mario's personality has remained pretty simple in almost every context. He's the stoic player stand-in, or at best, horrific Italian stereotype. Luigi, on the other hand, has developed several traits that set him apart from his big brother. Granted, most of his characterization involves his cowardice and anxiety about living in Mario's shadow. But several RPGs have expanded Luigi in other ways. Namely, the fact that Luigi's incredibly dangerous, and Mario is the only thing standing between him and the unstoppable wave of destruction. We know Luigi is capable of evil because we saw his alter ego in Super Paper Mario, Mr. L. It might be a bit unfair to blame Luigi for his actions. Mr. L was the result of brainwashing, and presumably raiding the Hamburglar's wardrobe. But it does show that Luigi is weak-willed and easily manipulated. Even when Luigi's lucid, he's still a threat. In Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door, the player runs into Luigi several times. Each time you see him, he has new stories about his own adventure running parallel to your own. Like there's a whole other video game story happening. At the same time, the main difference is that Luigi is the hero of this story, which leads to some complications. When you ask Luigi's companions about their exploits, they tell a different version of the story. One rife with incompetence and unintended property damage. Even though Luigi means well, his adventures are carving a wide swath of destruction across the Mushroom Kingdom and beyond. If this is what Luigi's doing with his good intentions, imagine what he would be capable of if he actually tried to hurt someone. To most, he's just a taller Mario with a weird floaty jump, but Luigi has amassed an impressive set of strange but formidable powers. In Mario and Luigi Dream Team, Luigi is somehow the only one who can connect to the dream world. In the prequel, Mario and Luigi Partners in Time, the magical Stargate senses a darkness in Luigi and decides it would be best for the universe if he wasn't allowed through the doors. The gang only proceeds after finding the Aurora Block, which can grow as big as the heart of a person who uses it. To recap, Luigi is dangerous even when he means well. He is capable of incredible and inexplicable supernatural acts, including the ability to crush himself with his own heart, and is also easily brainwashed by anyone with as much as a game genie. No wonder he's always hanging around with Mario. Without his big bro, Luigi would inevitably fly off the chain. All of his worst attributes would snowball, and the resulting disaster would be way worse than a common kidnapping. Some people are better off staying player 2. Now, to recap on this, again, I didn't write this story. And think about it, it very well could be a fact. I've only played a couple Mario games growing up, mostly, not any recent ones. I don't have a Wii or any of those systems that play Mario games. But just thinking about the storyline, it can make sense. Second one on our list is Skyrim Apocalypse will be brought about by bug jars. Now, you all know the bug jars in Skyrim that you find randomly throughout the world. I myself have no idea what the point of them are, except for maybe decor in your own house. But, so here's the story. It's not news. People are still playing Skyrim. At this very moment, thousands of people are exploring the mountainous corner of Tamriel, adding to their ever-growing horde of dragon bones and cheese wheels. Almost from the very start, fans have been mystified with one thing in particular, the bug jars. Scattered across the lands of Skyrim are 5 glass jars. Inside these jars are 5 different insects: a butterfly, a torch bug, a dragonfly, a moth, and a bee. Each of these 5 bug jars feature a brilliant set of runes carved in the lid. Over time, fans have dug into the meaning of these jars, their locations, and the runes themselves, and have come up to the only sane conclusion. These bugs are part of a bizarre and powerful summoning ritual that will bring an end to mankind. There's way too many details and variations on the story to cover everything here, but one of the most interesting facts of the theory has to do with a huge transmutation circle across the entire map of Skyrim. The 5 major cities of Skyrim make a pentagon. Inside that pentagon is yet another pentagon, made up of 3 dragon sanctuaries. The Dwemer Ruin, I cannot even say that word, and the Tower Stone. In the middle of this miles-wide transmutation circle is a shrine to Talos. Supposedly, the ritual involves killing all the dragons, placing the bugs in their corresponding cities as evidenced by their ruins, and then activating the Tower Stone. After that, the promised day would come, along with the apocalypse, presumably followed by the events of Kirby 64. This all sounds pretty improbable. Yeah, but with the internet, there might be looking a little too hard at some bug jars. But remember, this is the same world in which all of the doors vanished without a trace. Bethesda has always been about filling their world to the brim with meticulous details that no one would notice, like the Thieves Guild markings. On every single house in Skyrim, when it comes to these games, anything is possible, up to and including the world being destroyed by a moth. Now, to look back on this one, there is no factuals about this except for the bug jars being in existence and the cities lining up when you look at the map. Now, mind you, it would probably be better to look at the map that comes with the game versus the map in-game, considering with the elevation, the fog, the realism to it, it's really hard to see the exact. But if you look at the paper map that comes with it in the game book, it's pretty easy to see. Next one on our list, BioShock Infinite. Source code loop. It hasn't been released, but that hasn't stopped the internet already speculating about BioShock Infinite. And the best theory on the net suggests that the game's narrative owes something to source code and perhaps Quantum Leap. The theory suggests the following. In the lighthouse is a dead man with a message telling Booker it was his last chance. Now, why would be Booker told that if he really is his first time rescuing Elizabeth? Later, the guy says he doesn't row, in a tone implying that he doesn't row in past sentences, almost as if he's trying to recreate a past event. The guys also seem surprised by the results of the coin flip, suggesting that the result is unexpected. So, this isn't Booker's first time attempting the rescue of Elizabeth, even if he isn't conscious of the fact that he has relived the attempt on a loop, failing every time. The dead body in the lighthouse is a warning of those failings, and could in fact be an alternative version of Booker himself, which have been many, hence the infinite in the title. That infinite title might be a reflection of the game's meta-ness, an expression of the game's conscious attempt to reflect the very later of gaming, redoing over and over until you run out of lives. What we're seeing and getting to play is Booker's last chance, and he must not fail to rescue Elizabeth. It is a very clever theory, which you know, that's more of one that when you play the game, if you haven't played it, warning, spoiler alert, the game's a real big mindfuck at the end. When you start clicking these pieces together and start realizing exactly what happened and exactly what is going on, there's a ton of theory surrounding it. The only part of it I haven't played is the DLC. It was a really good game, but at the same time, it kind of pissed me off. It was a big mindfuck on the entirety of the situation. Next topic. Legend of Zelda. It's all one and the same. Now, this one's been respeculated, changed, flip-flopped, turned around, brought up again and again and again. Finally, they released a book on it. But here's the theory from fans. Branching off from the previous theory about all the Nintendo franchises taking place within the same world, it's easier to focus on just the Zelda series as evidence for this. Although the major Mario games have remained fairly similar in their graphical stylings, forging spin-offs like Paper Mario, Zelda has seen everything from the extremely cute minimalist aesthetic of Wind Waker to the more realistic-looking Twilight Princess. However, if these striking graphical changes were the result of The Legend of Zelda being retold across different generations in different cultures, when you retell the campfire stories part of the fun is embellishing certain aspects and exaggerating them for your audience, but at the core of this story, we always have a small magical boy on an adventure who wields a sword and shield, wears a green costume, and fights monsters. Lots of fans have different favorite games, specifically because of these huge aesthetic differences. But with this perspective, it all comes together quite nicely. In addition, some have theorized that the Zelda series actually becomes that of Mario, being that across time, events and details get distorted when told by word of mouth. If the only things that remained were tales of adventurers who wore green and red, Link's costumes, Mario's and Luigi's uniforms, as well as descriptions of fantastical legends that ended in thwarting big demons such as Ganondorf or Bowser, it's a great way to bring the two together. And it really is. A lot of people believe that when it comes to the Legend of Zelda series, there is a lot missing. There are a lot of gaps, which at the same time, a lot of people believe it leaves room for more video games. It leaves more room for more stories, more add-ons, more additions, remakes even, and add-ons to those stories when they get remade. Next one, Super Mario Bros. 3. The game begins with curtain opening, shadows on a backdrop. Mind you, this one's a little short. Blocks bolted to the ground, more shadows on skyline. Exit stage right, end of set. Platforms hanging from the roof, sticking out through slots and backdrop, running via hidden machines behind a set, being able to run through the bushes in the background if you can get the glitch right, the shadows, the way the wording is, the way it cuts off for the next scene, the goofy little faces and the plants that you don't see in any other Mario game, the way it's set up. The theory is Super Mario Bros. 3 never happened. It was all just a stage show, a play. Mario was never once in any real danger. You were merely the audience. And that one gives you kind of a mindfuck, considering, just thinking about how it went and how you played it, if you played it. I mean, I did. I grew up on playing that one, the first Super Mario Bros., Duck Hunt, all those NES games. Those are the ones I grew up on. Which, speaking of which, allows me to segue into this. This one's not really a game theory, so to speak. It is an ideal that a lot of video game players from back when the NES was famous, the Sega was famous, this is something that hits big with them. And it's how, when the game's messing up and keeps freezing on you, how do you fix it? Blowing in the cartridge. And it fixes the bugs magically. While in the instruction booklet that came with every NES title explicitly instructed against blowing into your game cartridge, that didn't stop the collective youth market of the 80s from blasting the connector pins like a fluffer auditioning for a XXX remake of Gravity. Kids around the world swore this was the only way to fix the cartridge. That was behaving like a lazy speak and spell. The reason behind all the huffing and puffing had to do with the front-loading design of the NES console, and connector pins from the console to cartridge not lining up. Blowing in your console usually came with an excess of moisture from all that spit in your mouth. The moisture enabled the pins to align, and thus your spitty copy of Duck Hunt ended up working. It was a short-sighted win, though. Over the years, blow damage, quote, degraded games, and the whole thing got sorted out with the Super Nintendo's top-loading design and the Sega's design. However, sometimes they did still mess up. And going from the days of the NES, what did you do? You still blew in them. We've done everything from Q-tips and alcohol to blowing in the game to taking a dry Q-tip and rubbing it across it and hoping that caused it to fix. But for some reason, blowing in it just worked a hell of a lot better. Now, that one's also, like they said, it really did damage the cartridge. There was real reasons not to do it, but we did it anyways. The Rebels. And our last and final one, Fallout 3 predicts the future. This one is a theory. This one is a hard knock at the same time. If you think into it, it can really mess with you. In a mental sort of the way, just by overthinking it. So, early warning, don't overthink it. It's more than likely not true. Again, it is a theory, it's not a prediction, it's just an idea. And might be creepy, might not. But at the same time, Fallout 3 also supposedly happened around the 60s, and so there you have it. It probably wouldn't be anywhere near like that now. Bethesda's Fallout 3 was a marvelous post-apocalyptic RPG, but it was also capable of telling the future. Or was it? Throughout the game, players pick up radio signals in the wasteland of former Washington, D.C. The function of the radio serves as a means of broadcasting old pop songs, updating missions, and generally working to build a fuller game world. And to kill the silence of the wasteland. Throughout the game, the device also predicts the future. Occasionally, a series of numbers which sounds like Morse code will be broadcast through your Pep-Boy. The story goes that the code predicted the Deepwater Horizon oil rig disaster right down to the day and hour. Now, I don't know much about the Deepwater Horizon oil rig disaster. I don't remember much about it, if anything at all. I briefly remember hearing something about the Deepwater Horizon oil rig in the news, but at the same time, I don't know a whole lot about it. And I didn't bother to do research because it just seems boring. But supposedly it guessed that it was going to happen. And it theorized that it was going to. But at the same time, if you think about it, coincidences are coincidences. And I'm not one of those believers that anybody at Bethesda or any game creator out there can accurately predict the future in any way. Now, to segue off of this, here soon, sometime next week, we will be posting more videos. We're going to start doing reviews here soon because Fallout 4 is coming out. Hence the reason why I did the Fallout 3 theory last. We're excited. We hope some of y'all are excited. And even though we don't have the recording equipment to record any gameplay, we still want to talk about it. We still want to let you guys know our experiences without too many spoilers, and let y'all know just how interesting this game is and how much of a buy it really is. And whether or not you should really buy it. I mean, there is all the creative parts of it. There is the aspect of the adventure. But sometimes you just get your hopes up only to have them crushed. We're all hoping we're not going to get crushed by it. It doesn't seem like we are. So we'll see where we stand in the future. Until